Hi, welcome to Nancy's Corner. We have some really good books for you today. All of them are brand new. And I say sometimes this is my new favorite book. Well, today I have 3 new favorite books. And of course, they are children's books. The first one is Lila Lou's Little Library. It is by Nikki Bergstresser. She's precious. I love Lila Lou. She loves books. Her house is filled with books. And her mama tells her, you have too many books. You're going to have to do something about this. And even though she does not agree, she figures, well, I'll share. So she gets her little toolbox and goes out in the yard and finds a tree stump and hollows out the tree stump and makes it into a lending library for all the kids and adults in the neighborhood. And that's how she doesn't really get rid of her books, but she shares her books, and at least some of them are out of the closet and off of her bedroom floor because she is surrounded by books. And I have to show you one picture. The cover is adorable. And I think there's another one in here where she is surrounded. Mama can't find her because she has books that are taller than she is. Look at all these books. So Lila Lou is just precious. She's my favorite new character. This one is so cute. This is Lovebird Lou. And it is, excuse me, written by Tammy Sauer. This is a wonderful book about family love. As you can see, Lou is a lovebird. But he's looking around at all the other birds and he decides, I want to be something else. I want to be a flamingo. And his parents say, go for it, little cupcake. And they call him little sugar cookie. And whatever he wants to do, they encourage him. When he's a flamingo, he is the best flamingo ever. And then he wants to be, I believe it's a starling that sings beautifully. Well, he sings, but not all that great. But they tell him he's wonderful. Then he decides, it's hard being a bird, I'm going to be a rock. So they find a place for him and they set up a little sign that says Lou the Rock and tell him he is a wonderful rock. And then he decides at the end, of course, that he wants to be a lovebird the way he's supposed to be. And of course his parents are thrilled about that too. Really fun, adorable, loving book. So Lou is another one of my favorites. This will make you laugh out loud. This is Interrupting Chicken Cookies for Breakfast by David Ezra Stein. And the little chicken wakes up his daddy early in the morning and says, I want cookies for breakfast. And daddy says, first of all, it's too early, and second, you don't eat cookies for breakfast. But after a little coaxing, he says, I'll read you a story. So he reads him nursery rhymes. And of course, the little chicken changes the nursery rhymes around to fit his needs. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many cookies, she gave me a few. And why do you live in a shoe? Isn't it stinky? Not when I bake cookies. So it goes on like that for 2 or 3 more nursery rhymes until Daddy Chicken just says, okay, that's it. I've had enough. We'll get up. But we're not going to have cookies for breakfast. You don't do that. Cookies are for dessert. We'll have cake. And Little Chicken says, really? We're going to have cake? And Daddy goes, yeah, pancakes. Love it. This one is called No Nibbling. This is by Beth Ferry. Well, Goat plants a garden. And he is very, very serious about his garden. And he looks at it all day and he weeds it and he sees what he thinks is a dandelion and it turns out it's a bunny tail. And I don't remember the bunny's name. Anyway, the bunny starts off as a baby bunny and the goat has a baby garden. And the bunny and the garden grow together. And this is very cleverly written because the bunny will say something like, let us talk about the weather. And they use a play on words of all kinds of vegetables. And, oh, the bunny is Tabitha. And Tabitha, you're all grown up. I am. So every time the bunny says something, it leads back to the garden. And as you can imagine or predict, at the end, the bunny is grown, the garden is grown, and the goat shares, because they are going to be best friends. While we're on the subject of food, this is Cook It, Dr. Seuss cookbook for kids. It's by Daniel Gerke. And in here are quite a number of recipes that go along with Dr. Seuss books. There's green eggs and ham, of course. There is chewy blue goo. There is sour kangaroo. These are all really delicious sounding recipes that kids will, of course, they'll need a little help, but if you really love Dr. Seuss and you want to get your kids interested in reading and cooking, this is a good one for you. Now, we're a little bit older kids. We have 3 of these books. It is the Story Pirates series, and the first one is Stuck in the Stone Age. This is by Jeff Rodkey. And this is two scientists who do something wrong in their lab and they end up back in the Stone Age. The story is good, but the main thing about all these 3 books is in the back of the book and throughout the story, they talk about the writing process. This is how to write a fiction book. You have the beginning, the middle, and the end. They have things about information about characters. They have information about setting. And as you're reading the story, when they start talking about the characters, they will refer you to the page in the back of the book where it tells you how to create a character. So if you have any children that are interested in writing, this would be perfect because they give you the story and they tell you how to do it. This one is fiction. We have one on mystery. We have one on science fiction. So this would also be good for summer to keep kids interested in writing so their language arts skills don't get stale. Now, for our teens, we have Ali Cross, which is, of course, written by James Cross. And Ali Cross is Alex Cross's teenage son. He's a young teen, but he and one of his friends leave school one day, and they all play this video game. And he said, "I'll meet you in the game room in an hour." Well, Ali and some other friends are in the game room. His friend never shows up. He has disappeared. And Ali wants to be a detective, just like his father. So he sets out to find him. There are also some house robberies in the neighborhood. It's around Christmas time. And when the Cross family comes home from midnight mass, all their Christmas presents are gone. And of course, they are very upset about it. The rest of the police force is called in. They're looking for the robbers. They're also looking for this child. And the next day, some of the presents have been returned. The doorbell rings and they go to the front door and there's Ali's laptop. He was getting a new laptop for Christmas, and some of the other gifts, and nobody's there. Well, that tells Ali that his friend is in some kind of way on these house robberies. Well, turns out he really is a nice little guy. Some of the other members of his family are not, but Ali helps solve the case. We also have the second one. I haven't read that one yet, so I can't tell you what that one was about, but this is very good. Now for the adult books. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I mentioned this. You will find this in the teen section. I'm going to start off with an audio book. This is The Paid Bridesmaid by Soraya Wilson. Main character is named Rachel. Her business is letting people hire her and her staff to be bridesmaids. If you want a big wedding and you don't have enough friends, you call her and she will supply bridesmaids for you. She's also not really a wedding planner, but she helps things run smoothly. Well, this internet influencer hires her to be her maid of honor and one other bridesmaid because she's so focused on her career that she really doesn't have a whole lot of friends. And the entire wedding is going to be in Hawaii. It is going to be broadcast live over the internet. You can imagine as many things that can go wrong will possibly go wrong. Her alcoholic mother, it rains, the rings are lost. But the main thing that goes wrong is Rachel's #1 rule is never date someone from the wedding party. And of course, the best man is drop dead gorgeous, as nice as he can be, and guess who falls in love with the best man? Rachel. And he falls in love with her right back. So it's their love story plus the wedding story. It's a fun, romantic comedy. I think you'll like it. We don't have the book, but the audiobook is fun to listen to. The next one is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. And this one I'll put off reading for a while because the main character's mother, it starts off at the mother's funeral. And I don't do very well with books about dead mothers. They make me cry. But this one just kept drawing me back, and I ended up loving it. Katie is the main character, and she and her mother are very, very close. They are each other's favorite person, and I know what that's like. So her mother had gone to Italy when she was a young woman, and she always wanted to go back because she had a fantastic time, and she wants to take Katie with her. They're making plans to go to Italy, and her mother's cancer comes back, and it's aggressive this time, and she dies. Well, a couple of weeks after, the tickets come in to go to Italy. And Katie says, well, I'm going to go, and I'm going to go by myself. She tells her husband, I don't even want to be married anymore. I'm going to Italy. That's it. I might be back, I might not. So she goes to Italy, and she stays in the hotel they were supposed to stay in. She's going to follow the itinerary, but she's really not sure she's having a good time. So one day she's out sightseeing, and she walks into the hotel lobby, and there is her mother as a young woman. So they make friends, and she and her young mother travel around Italy doing all the things that they were going to do on the trip back if her mother had lived. And they get to be really good friends. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends. It is so sweet and so great. Read this book. That's all I can say. It's wonderful. This one was very interesting. This is The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. Everybody knows that in 1925, Agatha Christie disappeared for 11 days. Nobody really knows exactly why she did it, where she went. There's all kind of speculation. They know where she was found. But this book is written from the perspective of Nan, her husband's mistress. And she really kind of likes Agatha. She really doesn't have anything against her. And they end up in the same spa, and they become friends, even though they know who each other is. But they find out they kind of have things in common. It's a love story. It's Nan's first love. You hear the reason why she went after Archie Christie and was set on marrying him, which she eventually does. And Agatha has a fling while she's on her disappearance. I doubt that much of this is true. I really don't know. There are other references that you can read that tell more of the true story, but it is a completely different perspective on Agatha Christie's disappearance. Really interesting. If you like Agatha Christie, read it. If you just like a nice mystery, you can read it. There's also some romance in there. The next one is The Caramel Pecan Roll Murder by Joanne Fluke. This is another Hannah Swenson. There is a fishing tournament in Lake Eden, and of course the caterer gets sick and has to give up. So they ask Hannah if she and her bakery and with her sister's help will cater the desserts and the breakfast for the fishing tournament. And of course she said yes, it's going to bring attention to her bakery. Well, there is a television sports person, TV show person, and he has a fishing show. And he, of course, is the one that gets killed. And Hannah has to figure out who did it. There is one part in this book, it is the very last page. I'm not going to tell you what it says, but when I read the last sentence, I went, this woman knows how to sell books. Because my first thought was, when is the next one coming out so I can see what happens? There's a lot of cookies, there's a lot of drinking coffee, but if you like the Hannah Swenson series, you won't be disappointed in this one, and you will want the next one. The last book I have for you is The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections by Eva Jurasik. This is a library with special collections, antique books. And the director had a stroke. So he's in the hospital, and his assistant is taking over as the director of this part of the library. There is an ancient Bible that they spent a fortune for. It's going to bring a lot of donations into the library. It's missing. One of the employees also goes missing. So they put two and two together and say she stole it. The police are finally called in because they don't want the police to come in because it would be bad for the library. But when the woman goes missing, her husband calls the police in. So now everybody's looking for her. There is an ancient math book which tells the history of zero, which is also missing. They also find out that there are some books that they thought were real that are forgeries. So this whole department is in an uproar. And they're blaming it on the girl that took over for the director who's in the hospital. And of course, it's not her fault. But you hear the backstories of these people, the romances of these people. You find out who actually stole the books, who made the forgeries. It's a little long, but it is very, very interesting. So if you like stories about rare books and a little mystery, a little intrigue, this would be the one for you. I hope you have found something that you would want to read from the books I talked about this morning. If not, please come into the library anyway, because we have all kinds of books that I'm sure you would find something you would like. Have a good day and find something great to read.